Hi everybody. Now that we've talked a little bit about the technical pieces of LLMs, large language models, I thought this might be a good time to actually look at a few of the large language models that we have available to us today. Now, as you know, these technologies change very quickly, so give a little grace if not everything looks exactly the same as it is in this video. But I wanted to just talk about these a little bit and just show you their interfaces where we are today, so that you can get a feel for what is available to us to use. So let's get started. Now, before we jump in too far, I want to throw out one other thing. The names that you are seeing here, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, Claude, those are actually applications that allow us to interface with the large language model. That large language model actually sits behind that, and that is the core model that processes text and generates responses. So these tools are actually small applications that sit on top that allow us to engage with it. So while you will often see these application names called LLMs, technically they are really just that, applications that have a back end of large language models that we are accessing. So for the purposes of this video, we will call these LLMs. Okay, so we see 5 LLMs that are here. This is absolutely not an exhaustive list. This is a list of what I think are probably the 5 most popular, but that is obviously debatable depending on who you talk to. So let's start at the top there, ChatGPT. This is the OG. This is what started everything. This is where in November of 22, ChatGPT became available for people to use. The company is called OpenAI, and we are, it is still currently the most popular LLM that folks are using. As research continues to come out about AI, this one continues to be at the top of the list for people. It's approachable, it's what everybody has heard of, and it actually doesn't even require you to log in to use it, so it has a really easy entry point. We'll look at ChatGPT here in just a minute. Gemini is next on the list here over to the left. This is Google's version. If you see older videos, you might have seen it called Bard. It has been renamed to Gemini, and it is also a pretty popular LLM, and because it's Google, it is beginning to be integrated into some of its products. So depending on what version of Google Docs or Slides or even Google Workspace in general, you may see Gemini integrated into that. Microsoft's version is called Copilot, and it is similar to other large language models. It is just Microsoft's version of it. It's all worth mentioning here that these are not all trained exactly the same, but the essence of what they do is similar. The next one on the list over here is Perplexity. And this one is a bit different in that it is trained to, when it answers a question for you, it cites itself. So you're able to actually check its sources. And again, I'll show you this in just a minute. But I have heard Perplexity talked about in the sense that if people are used to Google searching and looking for things, they have switched over to Perplexity because it is kind of like a Google search, but it also cites all of its sources. So I tend to use that if I'm looking for things that I might Google search on and find on the internet. Claude, the company is Anthropic, and it is also a popular one for people to use for interacting with a large language model. I think it's particularly good at creative things. It is also, it uses something called artifacts, which pops it out, its answers sometimes into a new window if it's appropriate. For example, if you're asking it to create an activity, I used it for creating an icebreaker, and it popped it out into an artifact window so that I could easily either publish it from there or copy and paste it into a document I could use. So actually, ChatGPT has something that is similar to that called a canvas. So the intricacies of each of these obviously will look a little bit different. I don't want to dig too much into the weeds. You'll get an opportunity to play around with this and have some time to experiment with them. But for just an overview, I want to show you what each of these LLM interfaces look like so you can get familiar with it. So let's do that now. We'll start with ChatGPT. So here we are at ChatGPT. You can see the URL where I am to get to this page. It is worth noting that you don't have to log in to try this out. You can see in the upper right-hand corner that I am logged in. For assignments in this class, you will need to create an account so that it will save your history that we're seeing over here in conversations that you have. It's also worth a reminder that if you don't want to use a personal account to do all of these testing out of tools and assignments and things like that, you can create a brand new Google account that you can use just for this class. It's what I do. I keep my personal Gmail account personal, and I have a class account that I play around with for these tools. So that's entirely up to you. So once you are logged in, you will see, again, you are logged in the upper left-hand corner, and you of course see this chat box in the middle. This is as simple as it looks like to get started to talk to ChatGPT. So let me explain a couple of other interface options that you're seeing here. Okay, you'll notice there are 3 icons down here. This is if you want to attach a file. So this is helpful if you want ChatGPT to take a look at something. One example might be an image. You might upload an image and say, tell me about this. Another one might be you might upload a syllabus to a course, and you can say, here's what I'm working with. I'm working on module 2. I'm creating an assignment on blah, 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 blah. The more information you can give an LLM, the better it can assist you. So this is helpful for attaching files or information you want to give ChatGPT. This is a toolkit. It's somewhat new for ChatGPT. If you click on it, you can see that it's giving you 3 different options here. You want to create a picture using DALL-E, you want to find something out on the web, or you want to use Canvas, which is it'll pop up an external window, and you'll be able to edit things and build things kind of as you're talking to ChatGPT. So important to know that those are options. You'll also notice that you have a new chat window in the upper left-hand corner here. It is good practice when you change topics to start a new chat so that as they are kept over here on the left, you don't have random things all together that makes it hard to find content that you want to come back to. So if you're changing topics or conversations, you want to start a new chat. And the one other icon I'll mention is voice mode over here on the right side, and I'm going to come back to that. So just as a simple example, I am going to type in a prompt here, and I'm going to say, create me a poem about the pros and cons of AI and education. Now, I have a typo here, but AI is pretty good about skipping over that, figuring out what you wanted to say anyway. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just let it create me a poem. Now, we know from some of the other videos that this is really about, there's a whole lot of math going on the background to give us this poem. It's generative AI because it's generating it for us, and it is predicting what should be the next word that it puts out there. All right, so I have a pretty good poem here that we can read through. It does bring out the pros and the cons, and it's a pretty good poem. Now, we can actually tell it if it was a good or a bad response, which gives human feedback back again. We can also copy this and take it out of ChatGPT and put it somewhere else. We can also have it read it to us.
The dual faces of AI in education. In the classroom, a spark ignites. AI steps in.
Okay, I'll stop. That might be helpful for young readers if you want to use the voice or you're showing it in class and you want everybody to hear it. Okay, so let's say now, change this poem to be in the voice of Dr. Seuss. Now, this is what I'm doing here is it's called iterative prompting, which means that I can go back and forth and ask it to change things about it or ask it to add to it. So it's not just a one-stop shop here where we get what we get. And so you can see here it is changing it, and if we read through it, it does read like Dr. Seuss. All right, so it built our poem. Now what if I said, make this poem shorter and in the voice of Shakespeare? That is not good spelling. There we go. And let's see what it'll do for us. So Okay, this does read more like Shakespeare, and let's see if it makes it shorter for us. I want you to see, yes it did, I want you to see that you can make changes or add things to it, and it's called, again, iterative prompting. So this was ChatGPT. One other thing I want to show you about this is that, two things actually. One, it's saved over here on the left, so if we click on this, we have several options. We can rename it. This automatically names for us, but we can rename it. We can archive it, and we can share it. This is important. So we can click share here or share here. If you want to share a chat conversation that you've had, whether that be to share it with somebody because you want to share the content, or whether you're using it to cite information, you can create a share link. So if we click share here, we're going to create a link by clicking create link. There it is. We'll go ahead and copy it. One thing to note here is that when you know that you're in a share URL, because it will say the word share in here versus up here. Let me just show you that this worked by going into a blank new window. That is my share link, and I was able to share this conversation. So that's an important skill to know. Again, it's helpful for not only sharing, but also being able to cite your work. Two last notes on ChatGPT. If you share a conversation, you have to make sure that you do not delete this chat conversation over here. If I come down and I hit delete, that share link that is associated with this will show page not found. So make sure you do not delete conversations that you are sharing out. One last important thing that I want to show you with regard to ChatGPT is their voice mode. Let me start a new conversation. And I'm going to come over here to where it says use voice mode. The first time you use this, it's going to come up and ask you to allow conversations with the microphone. So I already did that. So let me start a conversation here. Hi, ChatGPT. I am demoing voice mode for some students. Can you have a quick conversation with me?
Of course. Hi there, everyone. What would you like to talk about today?
Well, I want to show them how conversational this is, and also that it will provide a transcript back and forth of us talking. So can you just kind of give me a little bit of conversation about how you work as voice mode?
Sure. As voice mode, I can chat with you in real time like we're having a regular conversation. Everything we say gets turned into a transcript so you can follow along or look back at what we've discussed. It's a great way to make our conversations more dynamic and interactive.
Okay, that's great, GPT. Thank you. I want to also make a point here to my students that this is really helpful for dialoguing or having students practice a certain skill. For example, you could have them, if you're a future K-12 teacher, practice a parent-teacher conference. If you are preparing a student for, let's say, an interview, they can practice interview skills. So this is very helpful. So ChatGPT, any last words on voice mode before we wrap up this particular demo?
Absolutely. Voice mode can be a fantastic tool for practicing real-world skills like interviews, language learning, or even public speaking. It's designed to be engaging and interactive.
All right, I'm going to interrupt you so that I can show them that you can interrupt, and it's very seamless. It's more like a conversation. GPT, thank you for the information and for the reminder that this is also helpful for language. Thanks for your time today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Okay, I'm going to hit end here, you guys, and show you, look, the whole transcript is here, and I was able to go back and forth and show what we were able to do here. So this was our whole conversation. One last thing to note here is right now, you cannot share a voice conversation like this. However, you could copy it out and then share it through a Google Doc or some other form. Okay, that's ChatGPT. We spent the most time on this because I just wanted to show you what it can do, and it's also the most popular one. So let's head over to Gemini now. Okay, so here we are on Gemini, and it looks similar in some ways. Over here on the left, we can see recent conversations. We've got our chat window down here at the bottom where we can ask our questions. So let's ask it the same question that we asked ChatGPT, which was, create me a poem about the pros and cons of AI in education. We'll go ahead and let it run for us here. Oh, now look what it's doing. It's creating an image, which is not what we asked for. So let's go ahead and let it create its image. Oh, here we go. It said, sorry, there was a problem generating images. It caught itself. But we could have said, hey, that was a mistake. We don't actually need an image. So here is our poem, and just at quick glance, it started with, in learning's realm where knowledge gleams, a digital dawn, AI it seems. So let's go back over to AI for a minute. In the classroom, a spark ignites, AI steps in with glowing lights. Different. And it was titled something different. So I want you to see that just because we ask the exact same question, we do not get the same answer. In fact, we could open a new chat window for ChatGPT and ask it the same thing, and we will also not get the same thing that we got the first time. Remember, this is generating based on probability and calculations that are going on in the background, so you will not get the same thing twice. So let's ask it to put this in, same thing we did before, change this poem to be in the voice of Dr. Seuss, and we'll see what we get here. All right, so just as a reminder, it starts with, in a classroom not far, not near, comes a curious thing, a robotic peer. Okay, so let's ask Gemini here for the same thing. Once again, this is called iterative prompting. So it's trying to create an image for us again. Something about the word poem, it thinks that we want an image. We'll see if it corrects itself this time. Okay, it did. It did not create an image for us. Okay, so obviously you can see here that this is different, and it is not the same as what we saw before. Let's ask it our third question on make a poem shorter and in the voice of Shakespeare. I want you to see that different language models will then come back with different information. It did make it shorter, and it does read a bit more like Shakespeare, but it looks different than what we got in ChatGPT. So for Gemini, one thing to keep note of here is that we have the same thing, good and bad responses. We can regenerate. If we didn't like that, let's give us another one. All right, here's another one for us. One thing here is if you want to share via Gemini, you've got your share button down here where we can share a conversation. You can also export it to Docs. Why would that be? Because it's a Google product. And you can also draft it into Gmail. So let's do share a conversation. We're going to go ahead and click here to copy the link. And once again, you can see the word share in the conversation. I will show you by opening up a new window that this will work for us. And there it is. There's our whole conversation about our poem there. So Gemini looks similar, but different results. When I am working on something, I'll often try a couple of different LLMs to give me an idea of what's going to work best for what I'm looking for. So that is Gemini. Copilot, here is Copilot. I am logged in the upper right-hand corner here. We will ask it the same question that we asked about the other two. So let's grab this. And we'll try Copilot. All right, here we go. Create a poem, and here is my poem. It looks different. It actually broke it down into paragraphs that were pros and cons, which was different than what the other two did. And it does still read like a poem, but really looks different. So what would you be looking for? It's also asking me here, is this good? What do you want to do with this? So let's ask it our next question about changing this into the voice of Dr. Seuss. Okay, it kept the same layout that it had, and it does, we've got gizmos and gadgets too. It does read more like Dr. Seuss. And we could say something like, don't break this into paragraphs for pros and cons, make it more integrated. Again, I have a typo here. I want you to see that, again, you can ask it to do anything. Oh gosh, I have another typo, and it skipped right through it, and it did what I asked. So what it gives you, if you don't like it, ask it to try something else. So this is Copilot. And to the best of my knowledge, Copilot does not allow a direct sharing. You'd have to copy the message into something like Google Docs and share it from there. So something different about Copilot, Microsoft's version. So Claude is another one. And let me go ahead and log in so that we can get started with this one. Okay, here I am at Claude, and me logging in reminded me to say that all of these tools allow a Google account as a login. So it really is a helpful email account to have around so you can log into these types of tools. Okay, we will ask it our same question that we asked the others. All right, let's see how it does for us. It's generating. So here is the thing that I told you guys, that it creates something called an artifact, which sits over here on the right. If it's developing something for you that it thinks you might want to pull out and share, or rather make some more work with or share with others. So this tells you kind of what it did, why it added the things that it did. From here, we can still talk to Claude. So let's ask it to change it into something more like Dr. Seuss and see if it will for us. Again, it will pop out over here our new version. Here's our new ask, and it will change it over here for us. Here's our new poem that looks a lot like Dr. Seuss, maybe more so than any of the others, actually. All right, you're getting the idea here that they will all produce something a little bit differently. This one's a little bit long, so if I were really doing this, I might want this to look a little bit shorter. Notice, too, that with Claude, it gives us this link that we can actually click to open this up into a new window. From here, you can copy the contents. We can also download it as a file, and we can publish it, which will give us a link to share with others. So this does look a little bit differently, but like I said, I like this in for creative work. I think it does a good job, and I like how it gives me something separate to grab from that's kind of separate from my conversation with it over here. So this one's Claude. Over here on the left, if I roll my mouse, here are my old conversations I had, and I can always start a new chat. So Claude, again, the company is Anthropic. Before we move on, I had to add one small piece in here because Anthropic has added a share option inside of Claude. So while we saw this option in ChatGPT and other LLMs, I wanted to show you it is also a part of Claude. So if you wanted to share this conversation, you would click share, and then you would choose the share over here. By default, you can see only you have access. Then choose to share, and then copy the link. And then you can share out that conversation to whoever or use it as a citation for the way you used Claude. So I just wanted to show you that that's something new. You do have to be in the main area here. So if you happen to be over here looking at the artifact, go ahead and switch back over. You can close this to the main, and then you can share it right there. Okay, guys, last one, Perplexity. Now, Perplexity.ai is unique in that it does bring back information based on a prompt, but really where it excels is gathering data and information versus creative work. It can do that, but it's not really its strength. Let me show you what I mean. We're going to grab our prompt that we have been using, and I'm going to have it go ahead and do a poem for us. Again, it'll do that for us. But what it wants to do in general is find information and cite its sources. All right, so it did do it for us. And I'll ask it to change the poem like we've done in the past. Okay, and it did do it for us. So it can do this. It can follow kind of the pattern that we've been doing before. But if I want to create, I'm going to create a new search here. It's worth mentioning that you have a search and you have something that's a bit more deeper in analysis for research. And we only have one of those a day, which is more of a deep research. So we'll stick with our search here. And let me ask it a question that would be a bit more research-based. Okay, this is the question that I asked. Show me 3 articles looking at the pros and cons of AI in education. This is right in Perplexity's wheelhouse. It wants to go and search things and give me back compiled information. So you can see what we're getting back here. Some information, and then as it's making statements, it's citing itself. And you can see we've got a 1 here, a 3 here, an 8 here. And what do those reference? Those reference these sources all the way up at the top here. So let's say I wanted to take a look at this. Is this really in this article? So let me go here and I could look through and see, does it say what it says that it says in its summary here? These are all the resources, again, it's pulling from and it's citing them in its summary back to me. It is always a good idea to make sure that these actually exist. Fact check. You check the facts of what Perplexity is giving you. Always a good idea with AI. And you can open them up directly from here as well and take a look at where these sources are. It's a really good job of kind of taking everything that's out on the web and bringing it back to you. I have heard people say that they have used this instead of Google searches because it brings it together a little more succinctly, and I would agree with that. So just like we have seen in the past here, we've got our library of questions we've asked over here, and anytime you want to start a new thread, it's right here. So think about Perplexity. It can do creative work again, but think about it more in terms of research and when you're trying to find sources on a specific topic. So the other thing you need to know about Perplexity is how to share it. It is up here in the upper right-hand corner, right there where it says share. You would click that and come down here to where it says shareable. And then the link is copied. The link is shared rather. You hit copy the link and then you can go and paste that in so that you can share it with others or cite your work that you've done in Perplexity. Okay, gang, this graphic is where we started, showing all 5 of these large language models. Hopefully you were able to see throughout this video the similarities and the differences and the different interfaces that come with each model. This is certainly, again, not an exhaustive list, but it is 5 that I thought would be useful for us to play around with. Remembering that large language models are not all trained exactly the same, and then their output each time is going to be different, even within the same model. So we will spend some more time in this module talking about prompt engineering. And while we did a little bit of prompting in this video, we'll dig a lot deeper into the kinds of information you give to a large language model to make sure you're getting back what you're looking for. So hopefully this gave you a good foundation as to all 5 of those and really how to get around and navigate them and what it can do for us. Let me know of any questions that you have.